Right guys, Wes here. Welcome to the channel, and if you've been following me for a while, you know that Starfield is a game that I've been thinking about quite a lot. I love BGS games, and I've been following Starfield since the trademark was first discovered 10 years ago. So to think that we are less than 3 months away from the global launch is absolutely crazy to me. Today we're going to discuss some of Starfield's biggest secrets, because like most Bethesda games, there is a lot of unknown. And for a game as vast as Starfield, it's an absurd thing to consider how little we know about the game. Well, lucky for you guys, we just got some exciting gameplay updates and huge details from the man himself, Todd Howard, the director of Starfield. Now, in a recent interview with Kinda Funny Games Xcast, Todd Howard gave us a ton of new information, so let's just cut to the chase. Can you fish in Starfield, and can Vasco wear a hat? Well, the simple answer is no, so rip the dream of a 90 Metacritic score. But jokes aside, let's start off the discussion with a controversial fact, which according to Todd Howard, only 10% of planets in Starfield will contain life. Now, this of course has sparked quite a bit of debate amongst fans of the game, and even added some fuel to the fire for some naysayers. But I personally think this is a positive, as their goal with Starfield was to create a realistic structure to each star system. Rather than every planet having life, they took the realistic approach. Todd mentions the Goldilocks zones, or rather habitable zones, which is basically the range of distance with the right temperatures for water to remain liquid. Now, it's undeniable that life is rare, or at least to us it's rare, so them limiting the amount of life on systems is a good thing. This gives them the ability to handcraft the biosphere of each system or planet that can support life. Todd then went on to address the concern of having planets that are barren wastelands, which was another big criticism that people had from the trailers and the gameplay demonstration, to which he responded this, which I thought was perfect. I think it's a moment when you land on some of these barren planets, and again, we will generate certain things for you to find on them, but if you look at a planet and see the resources it has, and those might be things that you want there. And he said, I love the Buzz Aldrin quote, "the magnificent desolation." I think there's a certain beauty to landing on a barren wasteland and feeling like you were the only person to ever visit this planet. So they actually considered that throughout the development process. Whenever you get to a new system or a new planet, you can actually scan it first and go to your star map and see what that planet has. So whether that's life or just barren wasteland, you know what you're getting into before you land. So it's a choice to go on planets with and without life. Now, in my opinion, 1 out of 1,000 planets having life is amazing, especially when you consider that we don't even know for a fact that there's life in our universe outside of Earth. Now, granted, it is statistically impossible that we are the only ones out there, but you can kind of see my point. I'll take 10% of 1,000 planets having life over the No Man's Sky approach of nearly every single planet containing some sort of life. I think there's a way of doing both. Now, No Man's Sky planets do have procedural generation in terms of the wildlife, but with that game having an infinite galaxy, you're almost guaranteed to come across different animals and plants that are pretty much the same. Now, whenever you land on a planet, there is a possibility of some planets only having one biome, and there's other planets that will have multiple per planet. So similar to how Minecraft stitches together the various biomes, Starfield is going to do the same thing. Also, one of my requests is a full ocean planet similar to Interstellar, and it better be named Miller to pay homage to the Miller planet from Interstellar. You know, the one with the big wave that's in the same system as Gargantua. Now, speaking of crazy stuff that's going to happen on planets, we got some confirmation that planets will have extreme weather as well as other hazardous conditions. So you will need to modify your suit before you go into the atmosphere, or else you'll get hit with, like, let's say radiation, extreme heat, stuff like that. That's not to say that you can't land on those planets, but you'll have a bad time if you try to go out and explore if you've not properly prepared. There's also going to be dust storms, I'm guessing acid rain and other stuff like that. Now, another gameplay aspect that we got confirmed by Todd Howard is whenever you land on a planet and you want to move around quicker, no, there's not going to be a rover or any mounts like that. You can't mount creatures, but they do give you a boost pack to traverse around the planets quicker. Todd said that this was a really fun thing to do. You could also fast travel to your ship, and I'm guessing other points of interest like other Bethesda games. Now, like I mentioned before, whenever you explore a new planet, you could scan the flora, the fauna, and scanning or surveying an entire planet will give you a ton of credits. And I'm also guessing whenever you get to a planet, there's going to be an NPC that will require you to scan a planet for something in particular, which will give you money and EXP. Now, this is very similar to the No Man's Sky gameplay loop. I just hope that it has more purpose. Now, I'm not saying like an NPC should always ask you to do that. I don't want it to be a Preston Garvey situation where they're like, hey, thank you for doing that, but there's a new planet that you have to scan. Go to that planet and scan it, and then come back and get money. Now, on the planets that have creatures on them, there's both hostile and passive creatures. Now, some of the hostile creatures can attack and kill the passive ones. Todd Howard then said that that was a problem that the team had to try to resolve, as there was higher level hostile creatures. They were killing all the non-hostile ones, which basically killed all of the other creatures on the planet. If you've ever played Ark Survival Evolved, this is a similar concept, where if there's a predator and there's another passive creature, then the predator will will just go buck wild and start killing anything in its path. I actually love the fact that there's going to be predators on some planets, and I really hope that some mod developer decides to create a taming ability that allows you to tame different creatures. I would love that. So some modder, if you're listening to this, make it happen. Now moving on to companions as well as outposts and stuff. If you want to play this game solo, there's an introvert trait, so you could play without any companions. Todd then explained that you could assign companions to ships you're not using, and the game has a robust companion management system, so you can assign them to any ship or outpost, and you could also dismiss them, which I'm guessing just means shoot them in the face if they're not pivotal to the game's story. Now, one thing that we learned in the Starfield Direct was that romance options are present in the game, but we got some further clarification from Todd Howard, as they're only limited to the 4 companions in Constellation. Next up, the game has multiple robot companions. Currently, we only know about Vasco, and Todd said you could technically crew your ship with just robots, but he doesn't want to oversell that aspect, which likely means that you can have Vasco as well as the other robots that are in the game to be in your crew, but there isn't a robot for every aspect of the ship, which I kind of expected that. I'm guessing he means that if you only have Vasco and another robot, then your entire crew would just be robots. Now from the direct, we learned that we could dock to an enemy ship and steal the ship, but in order to make edits and call it at any time that you want, you will have to register it. From that point, you have access to call the ship whenever you want and access to the ship editor. Todd then confirmed that every ship in the game was built using the ship editor, which I think is super awesome. It just shows how robust that system is. But does that mean giant ships like the UC Vigilance were also built with the ship editor? And can we build ships at that scale? It kind of sounds like it if that's what they're saying. Todd then later explained that shipbuilding was an in-game activity. He said you can't jump into the game and immediately start building and upgrading a ship to your liking, as it will cost a lot of credits and skills to upgrade and customize. Now, the host of Kinda Funny's Xcast asked the question if the game will have radios, citing that one of his favorite things about Fallout is the different radios that are in the game. Todd then confirmed that the game does have a radio, but it's local to one location. My guess is that's the Anything Goes place of Neon, but it could also be New Atlantis. It's hard to say. Now, as we learned from the direct as well as all the leaks back in 2018, you could build your own outpost in Starfield. This was an option in Fallout 4 that wasn't really nearly that in-depth, but they took that concept and started building upon it. Todd Howard said that outposts are a deep system. Outposts require resources, character skills to build a big outpost, but you can also connect an outpost between planets with your ships and your crews. Todd Howard said that this system is not meant for early game either. Now, in an outpost, you can set up an auto resource mining and farming setup. This will grant you passive resources for gathering materials and other things that the planet has to offer. You can set up trade routes to sell the resources. So outposts really are an economy generator. Next up, Todd Howard gave us an update regarding the game's performance and the technical aspects. He said he was super happy with the Creation Engine 2, and he gave a shout out to all of the engineers, as it took them a really long time to make this engine. He said that they really pushed the boundaries in terms of the tech. He talked about systems not shown with volumetric fog, which interacts with the global illumination lighting, which I think really does show. The game looks amazing compared to what it looked like last year and even earlier screenshots than that, so I can't wait to see how it looks on my PC. Now, another small note and a correction for my last Starfield video. Todd Howard confirmed that id Tech Software assisted BGS with their implementation of graphics. He then said that Creation Engine 2 has a ton of new tech for physics and gravity changes that they were able to lean in on. As we saw from the trailers, the gravity can be toggled on and off at a moment's notice, which adds a new dynamic to the gameplay. Todd then gave a massive props to the team at Digital Foundry for their coverage and explanation on why Starfield is only going to be 30 FPS on console, which, if you guys didn't know, they basically summed it up by saying Starfield will have a CPU bottleneck. Object localization and real-time simulation is a big hog to the CPU, which is why they had to lock it. And it's not a situation of just lowering the resolution equals more frames, mainly because it's a CPU bottleneck. And Todd reconfirmed that they're focused on making the game feel great, so I look forward to playing it on Series X. And like I said in my last video, I've never played a console BGS game above 30. Granted, I have played BGS games above 30 on my PC, which I plan to do for this game. Now, as you guys know, a game like Starfield has a ton of secrets, but there is one major secret that we have to discuss. The question was posed to Todd Howard during the Xcast interview, and that was, will Starfield have black holes, to which he immediately declined to answer. I'll be going over some story discussions in here that could contain spoilers. I might be guessing the right way, so skip to the next chapter if you don't want to hear about any potential story spoilers. Now, if you watched my previous video, you know I talked about the artifacts being used as a sort of wormhole that could have been created by the advanced intelligent life. When I think about Starfield having black holes, we first have to consider the inspiration of Starfield's galaxy, which is similar in nature to ours, and the closest black hole to Earth is approximately 1600 light years away. With Starfield's galaxy called the Settle Systems only spanning 50 light years, The only way for Starfield to have a black hole if there is one in the settled systems, or if we're able to travel over 1600 light years away to the closest black hole. Now, if you're not aware, our job at Constellation is to uncover the mysteries of the galaxy, and one of those mysteries is finding intelligent life. Well, if that theory is correct, the artifact, when completed, turns into a wormhole, or rather just a portal created by some sort of advanced intelligent life. That means we could technically travel over 1600 light years away and see Gargantua, or just a black hole. My theory is Todd is intentionally dismissing the question because it is central to the plot of Starfield. The fact that they already announced a story expansion called Shattered Space tells me that when we find the missing pieces of the artifact and put them together, that will lead us to find intelligent life, which will shatter how we think about the universe. Now, I could be way off here, but I have a feeling that that's one of the reasons why they called it Shattered Space, because I think the first expansion has to do with aliens, but I'm curious to hear what kind of theories you have to where the story might take us in Starfield, so drop those in the comment section. The next thing that I want to talk about is the fact that Starfield is going to be a modder's paradise. Now, those aren't my words, by the way. That's coming directly from the horse's mouth himself, Todd Howard. One of my favorite aspects of Bethesda Game Studios video games is their support towards the modding community. Unlike other publishers and developers that react negatively to modding, yeah, I'm looking at you, Nintendo, it's reassuring to know that Starfield will have the same support for mods as the previous titles. That will also mean that Starfield will likely get Creation Club support. Now, there's no word on whether or not that support will be at launch, but I assume it will be, seeing as Todd said that they will be involved supporting mods. It's hard to say if they will jump out of the gate with paid mods at launch, but with the potential smear campaign that could follow, it might be better off to hold off the Creation Club integration until a bit after the game's released. But only time will tell. Either way, I can't wait to see all of the wild mods this game will provide, because I anticipate there will be some new planets and systems created by modders, which is practically an infinite amount of content we could look forward to. The last thing that I want to talk briefly about is straight out of the Microsoft versus FTC hearing, and that is, according to Phil Spencer, Starfield had early discussions of being a console exclusive to PS5. Phil Spencer said with Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo starting off as exclusive to PlayStation 5, in order to prevent Sony from buying exclusivity, they decided to just buy the entire company. Talk about a Bruce Wayne move. Now, I don't want this to turn into a console preference discussion, but there is a real possibility that if Microsoft didn't purchase Bethesda, or ZeniMax rather, that Starfield could have been exclusive to the PlayStation 5 and skipped the Xbox ecosystem and even the PC entirely. So as a massive fan of modding and BGS games on the PC, I am personally relieved. But yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap it up with this video. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. If you've enjoyed my coverage on Starfield, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with your notifications turned on. Also, at 120k subscribers, I'll be picking the winner for the PS5 giveaway. We're about 700 subscribers away from that, so if you'd like to enter, check the pinned comment for those details. Thanks again for watching. This has been Wes, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.